Hey, how's it going? Today I have a Flavio Ikoma Bowie to share with you guys. First, we'll take a look at the knife close up. This is a newer piece from Flavio. And for those of you who don't know, Flavio um, was one of the original inventors of IKBS, or using ball bearings in folding knives. Um, and he is still, an innovator at his core, working directly with CRKT on new lock systems and designs. Flavio is from Brazil, and his knives are just very unique, unlike anyone else's that I've seen. And this is one of his newer pieces, which is just amazing. And his knives are extremely rare because he doesn't really go to shows. In fact, he used to go to TKI just once a year, and he brought just one knife, whereas other makers brought many knives. So his pieces are extremely hard to find. So many or most people who haven't tried his work or haven't held it in hand will not know about the quality of the pieces. But I'd say he's definitely one of the top 10, if not top 5 makers out there in terms of, fit and finish, action, the functionality. It's extremely well made. And if you haven't tried it in hand, you wouldn't know how good an Ikoma is. So, starting with the blade, this blade is a hand rub CPM 154 blade. He does like to kind of plaster his blades in his own logos, which, I can see why, but something like this would be nicer if it would focus on this side. Now, the blades are very, very beautifully ground, and his edges are razor sharp. You talk about Rockstead sharp. This is more slicey than that. Although it won't hold the edge as long because it is CPM 154. But extremely well done. Coming onto the handle, it has a nice, I believe, Mokutai pivot collar and a frosted finish on the frame, and a bead blast finish on the edge of the frame with some nice contouring. This is a really durable finish, beautiful finish. I haven't seen anyone else do something like this, but it's really nice. And notice the screws, and has a little anodizing in between them. Nice little details and touches. The back spacer, very nicely shaped. Floating back spacer, which is just beautiful. And one of the coolest things about this knife is, even though it's a 4-inch blade, it's actually pretty light. It comes in at under 5 ounces. I think it's around 4.8 ounces, which is very reasonable for the size. And it has a very nice and small pocket clip. And it works really well. And when you put it in your pocket, it's quite concealed. um, and it's just only a little bit of the pocket clip coming out, plus the bottom of it, but it's just a really really nice pocket clip, and it kind of conceals this whole really big knife. And for such a big blade, and the small pocket clip works surprisingly well. Um, and when it comes to actions, of course, because he is the inventor of IKBS, he still uses it, and you can kind of hear that double click. Let me do it again. And yeah, it is buttery smooth, amazing action. You just kind of floats down. You cannot miss with this action, and it is very addictive. The jimping is very functional, and there's two jimpings on two areas on top, where if you really need to press down, you can, and at the bottom or on the top for more conventional uses. The ergonomics is nice. It has kind of like this fighter style grip, which kind of locks it in your hand nicely, and it feels good in the hand. I like it. The lock release has absolutely zero stick. This is top-notch action. You can play with it all day long, flipped it thousands of times, and it would not come off center. Now, this piece specifically does not belong to me. It belongs to my friend, so I haven't actually tested it out. But if you remember, in one of my older videos, I did have the Ikoma Grand Sampa, and that one went through a lot. And it functions perfectly throughout the whole time. You do not have to worry about it coming off center, and it's sharp as heck. It is just one of the best pocket knives ever. I do prefer smaller knives, so even though it is lightweight, that the Sampa was a bit heavier than this, but this is absolutely wonderful. I just really enjoy playing with it. I haven't used it, but I have tested this on paper, and it just slices like nothing. With no effort, it can just go through paper like wonderfully sharp. So yeah, if you have a chance to check one of his knives out, I think this is absolutely one of the best out there. I wish he made smaller knives, because I'd really be into that. But then again, he releases knives maybe one or two a year, so it's quite difficult to have a chance to try out one of his knives. One of his newest innovations that I mentioned, he was working on a lock mechanism where it is kind of like a button lock, but it's so strong that even on his custom piece, it was a thick knife. It was really big. It's about the same size as this, but I believe it was a bit thicker. It was a beast. And the way he tested his lock was, he kind of punctured a hole on his wooden roof, or no, he locked it in somehow. He locked the blade in, and to test the lock, he was doing pull-ups on the knife, and he has it on his Instagram. I think you can still go see it if you can check out his, I think it was Ikoma Knives on Instagram. But it's kind of crazy where the lock, normally a folding knife, the weakest point is around the lock geometry, where the lock will, if you put too much pressure, especially downward pressure like this, the lock would slip. But in his newest design, he was doing pull-ups on the thing, which I thought was really crazy and impressive. So, I wish he would be more communicative, because it is very hard to reach out to him, and get him to reply to anything you say. But I think he is starting to become more and more um, involved in the knife community again. He used to be active, and then he went really quiet for a while. And I think, you know, besides his work with CRKT, he might be coming back, um, and making his full customs, which I really, really look forward to seeing his work coming out again in the future, because it's just one of the best knives that I've ever held. It is quite, it is almost basically flawless in my opinion. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the quick overview of the Ikoma knives, Bowie, and yeah, have a nice day.